All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kill It at Black Hat, the Cyber Startups Conference Playbook. I'm Neta Kivelis, founder and CEO of Blue Seedling, and I'm super excited to get us all started. We have very ambitious goals for this session with all of you today. Number one, all killer, no filler, just the best content. Number two, we want each and every one of you to learn at least 3 new things you can take and implement with your team tomorrow. And number three, we want you to walk out of this session thinking this has been one of the best webinars you've ever attended. Yes, we're going to send you the deck and the recording afterwards, and feel free to ask us any question during the presentation, either in the Q&A section or in the chat. We packed the agenda today really tightly. So we're going to do Black Hat top to bottom, everything from your strategy, setting goals, planning, budgeting, your booth, how to set up meetings, and much more. But before we dive in, I want to spend really less than 2 minutes introducing us Blue Seedling and sharing with you why you should even be listening to us today. So Blue Seedling is a boutique enterprise B2B marketing agency that for the past 10 years has been very fortunate to work with some of the world's best enterprise B2B startups and scale-ups, including many of the top cybersecurity technology companies, and we're very proud to call these companies our clients. But this is not a Blue Seedling sales pitch. If you're interested in learning more, you know where to find us. Today, I'm super psyched to be joined by some of my colleagues at Blue Seedling, experts in cybersecurity, in field marketing, in brand building, and between the four of us, we probably have hundreds of CISO steak dinners under our belt. So without further ado, I'm gonna jump right in, and I'm gonna start with a question to all of you. In 2 months, you're heading out to Vegas, and I wanna ask you, why are you going? Why are you attending Black Hat? And it's not a trick question. Any and all answers are welcome. So please chat us the answer or answers in the chat, in the webinar chat, and let us know, why are you going? What are some of your goals attending? And my investors told me can be one of them, but probably not everyone. So meeting people, definitely. Anyone else? Anything else? Why are you going? Why are we spending so much time and money? Branding and demand gen, stellar student. Meeting new leads, meeting other companies, pipeline. All right. Very solid answers. I would say that all of these answers and more fall into 3 high-level goals, usually ranked by this order of priority. Number one, pipeline generation, whether it's creating new pipeline or accelerating existing sales pipeline. That's usually number one, demand gen. Number two, everyone is there. You want to strengthen relationships with customers and partners and analysts and investors. Number three, you want to boost your brand perception and cement your position as a category leader. Now, I would say you have to be thoughtful and proactive about defining these goals and also ranking them by order of priority, and equally importantly, setting quantitative measurable KPIs for each and every one of them. Now, some of these lend themselves more easily for tracking and measurement, like demand gen. Some of them are more directional or aspirational, but this is work that you need to do prior to the conference and share them with your leadership and the relevant teams. And what I want to show you now is 2 real anonymized slides from a real client of ours, a cybersecurity scale-up, these are their real goals. So you can see the same three goals. Number one for them is relationships. Number two is brand building. And number three, only number three is demand gen. And this is how they're setting measurable, quantifiable goals for each one of these objectives, along with the owning team. And the key here, do this in advance and make sure that everyone is aligned, because there's nothing worse than coming back from Black Hat and the marketing team is all like, oh wow, it was an amazing conference. And the CEO is like, what are you talking about? We didn't meet a single customer. And you're like, oh, we did not know this was important. So don't do that. Set goals in advance with leadership. All right, let's play a game. Two companies attending Black Hat, they have the same budget, but they have different goals and therefore they have very different presence at the conference. What do you think is the number one goal for this company in the photo? And you can chat this in the webinar chat. So is it pipeline? Is it ecosystem relationships? Or is it brand? What do you think? Okay. So it's kind of split brand and pipeline. So I would say, oftentimes tactics do lend themselves to multiple goals. If I had to guess, I would say demand gen, big booth, lots of sellers, lots of ways to get scanned and really optimizing for these badge scans. What about this company that invested a lot of resources into this intimate, exclusive, premium experience in a baseball stadium? What do you think their number one goal is? Ecosystem, relationships. Okay, yeah, definitely. So this kind of intimate setting where you can really strengthen relationships with the premium in-person event. Awesome. So now that you have your objectives well defined, the next thing on your list is to come up with an appropriate plan. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Alice, who's going to talk about planning and budgeting.
Thank you, Netta. So our goals are set. Our show is selected, and now there are literally hundreds of decisions to make on the way to the show. But we claim that these five key decisions are going to make or break your conference based on your goals. The first would be the type of presence at the show, the size of the booth, whether or not to have a booth at all. Second would be the sponsorship level. Do you go for a keynote address with the premium that is associated with that? Do you go with advertising at the show and so on? Other choices, other decisions are whether or not to get media coverage, either paid or go for organic coverage. Where are you going to meet your prospects and leads? Do you get a suite or meet them at the booth or at Starbucks next to the show? And a major key decision is the team that you send, the size of your team, the personnel, their roles, and defining what they do at the show. So these are the key decisions. And we're going to take a look at an example, real world example of three clients that we worked with at RSA who made different decisions based on their goals and where they were in their company progress. So we had on the left, you can see a small seed stage company that decided to go with a small DIY booth. They literally built furniture from that we bought at IKEA and other places. They sent a small team, just a core team, but they opted to go for a premium meeting space and spend some effort on co-sponsored parties. Then we have a medium-sized company, a Series A company, that decided to make a splash at the show with their small booth. So we built a custom booth, very attractive and much talked about by people who saw it. We sent a medium-sized team, 10 people, the entire sales team, and a lot of support for that. But we opted to go with a shared meeting space and again sponsored a couple parties. And then on the right, you have a company that is later stage, is larger, and their strategy and goals were different. So they decided to focus mostly on meetings. So they got a private suite at a five-star hotel right next to Moscone Center at RSA. They hosted an event, a private event at a baseball stadium and partnered with their strategic partners for other parties and events. But they went with a middle-sized booth, medium-sized booth, minimal design, and just focused on meeting whoever came over. And this was a success for all three companies because they had different goals and therefore different presences at the show. So moving on from the um, top level planning, let's talk about the budget. So the budget for the show is critical and sticker shock is a real thing. But here are some of our top tips for avoiding a meltdown when you build your budget. And I'm going to go in order here. So first, try to plan everything you can ahead of time. Go as detailed as possible and try to see the future, exactly what you are going to be spending on. But leave room for surprises because things are going to change. Your theme for the show might change last minute. Surprise fees might be dropped on you. Changes in personnel might happen. So leave room in your budget for changes and surprises. Number three is a lot of us small startups are trying to look bigger than they are, and this is a lofty goal, but we need to keep this in check. So looking big, but not looking like the biggest player out there is a sure way to keep your budget in check. Then thinking about the swag. You can produce the coolest swag at the show for a lot of money, but will that actually move the needle? So that is something that you need to consider and see where that fits in your budget. Number five would be who from the team is actually at the show and why. Do we have budget justification for them to be at the show? And sometimes hard answers have to be given. And finally, and this is my favorite here, be super detailed. If you're super detailed in your budget sheet, you keep yourself honest in terms of your plan. It's also much easier to make changes if your budget sheet looks like this versus a couple of line items saying, booth, swag, people, and being done with it. So I highly recommend being super detailed, and I believe we're going to share a version of this sample budget later on. I also like having this executive summary that shows exactly what we're spending on each of the categories at the show. So be detailed, plan ahead. All right, so I'm going to turn this over to you for a minute. But looking at the budget, sometimes you want to cut corners somewhere. So how about you share some of your favorite budget line item hacks? So these could be successes you've had in the past by creating something new, being smart and working around some of the challenges that are part of life for a trade show. So I'm going to wait for people to chat it for a couple minutes. Buying monitors at Walmart, returning them post-show. Yes, we have done that, I admit. That is a good idea in many cases. See? All right. Reusing swag from past show. That is a great idea. Sometimes you would even want to go ahead and produce extra swag for your biggest show and then plan to use that for your shows later in the year. This amortizes the cost. Stickers, yes, we love stickers. So stickers are cheap and fun, and everybody loves them. No one whines about stickers being too heavy to carry home, and they stick around with whoever takes them. So your brand is out there. So here are some of our favorite budget hacks in recent years. So I'm gonna go in order here as well, but this is in no particular order. We love doing affordable media, so video interviews and digital features and content syndication. These can come surprisingly affordably and make an impact. You also have evergreen content to use later outside of the context of the show, so it also applies to your overall marketing budget. We love inexpensive awards with trophy photo ops. Typically, the price of submission is a few $100s, and if we're being honest about it, these are usually pay to play. So you get a nice shiny award, the team is happy, the team back home gets something to see on their mantle, and it's a great, again, opportunity for content beyond the show. If you have to hack your booth, you can build it on your own. You can get a portable router. You can get lead scanners, or you can avoid using the lead scanners from the show by using your QR codes and so on. An important part of hacking your budget is leveraging your investors or partners' office spaces, having them get you invites to the biggest events, making intros so you make sure you have a few meetings set up at the show without any extra effort, and so on. And guerrilla marketing, we've seen a lot of that in recent years. Companies being super creative and making an impact with their sideshow activities like these baby carts you see in the top left there. But beyond all of that, beyond the planning and beyond the budget and beyond the hacks, the biggest hack for a successful trade show, and we're going to talk about this a lot more in a few minutes, is making sure that you have sellers and founders who are there to hustle and they can get you the meetings that you need at the show to make sure that you are successful. And now I'm going to hand it over to Minal to talk about the most fun part, I think, of the show, and that is the story and the booth.
Thank you, Erez. And yes, I agree. It is the most fun part. It's the show. It is your booth, and it's the physical manifestation of your company, your brand, your mission. So I name my section, you have 5 seconds, because I want you to close your eyes. Imagine yourself in Vegas at the Mandalay Bay Hotel on the Expo Hall, and there are literally over 400 companies that are vying for your attention. Okay, now open your eyes. How do you make an impression? How do you stand out? And within 5 seconds, how do you communicate exactly what it is you do as a company? So let's jump right into it. The booth is your story. So, in my opinion, a lot of times booths are built backwards. A marketing team will start with, what is it that we want to show about our company? And then they end up with a product demo and a logo wall. Now, I know that Black Hat planning is well under progress here, but I want you to pause for a minute and I want you to ask yourself this question. What do you want people to say about your company after they leave your booth in their own words? Think about it. I want you to write your answer down. And now I want you to ask 5 other members of your team to write their answers down. Now, chances are, if you have not done this exercise before, if you compare the answers with your team, you may realize that your answers do not match. And I will tell you that this is going to be a problem. See, what I'm asking you to do here is define what your marketing perception is. And what is your marketing perception? It is what you want to be known for as a company and what you want your audience to repeat back to you. This is your marketing narrative, and this is going to inform your story and your booth execution and planning moving forward. Now, let's get a little bit more tactical. Before you spend another dollar on t-shirts, swag, plushies, I want you to write 4 things down. Number 1, a 1-sentence company description, something that your mother, your father, anyone you talk to can understand. Number two, a written perception statement. So literally finishing this question, after someone walks away from my booth, I want them to think blank, blank. Next, a messaging hierarchy. So what is one key message you want to present about your company, and then two supporting lines from there. Be ultra clear, be ultra focused. And then finally, a 10-word booth headline. And so if someone was walking past your booth and they had zero context about what it was that you did, would it still be clear to them what category you play in? Put these all on paper before you start making any more decisions about where you're putting your money. I want to actually get into real world examples because I think that this will be super clear. So let's take a walk back to RSA this past March. My first example here is Dropzone AI. And this example is of a company that chose a booth narrative and fully committed to it in all aspects of its presence. So Dropzone AI is an agentic SOC platform. Here's what they did with it. On the expo hall, they actually built a 1950s American diner. The idea is the diner is a place where everything is handled for you. And that's what Dropzone AI does for you. That's their metaphor. That's the kind of confidence that they want to instill about themselves. And this metaphor manifested itself everywhere. Chrome counters, checkered floors, the Wagyu sliders on the grill, the staff in period uniforms. People could smell popcorn before they even walked up to the booth. And people even posted on LinkedIn about the smell of this popcorn. The metaphor ran all the way through. The product brochure was actually in the form of a diner menu. Super creative, and the results were tremendous. They had thousands of badge scans, over 20,000 social impressions. And the lesson here was super clear. The concept wasn't just a decoration, it was a story that was made physical. And when you commit that completely to your story, the booth does the selling for you. My next example is actually a Blue Seedling client. This is Novi. They are in the AI pen testing space. And the interesting thing about Novi was this was their first conference ever. So they had debuted just a couple of months before RSA. And their presence here was a total hit for them. So they had a small booth. It was a 10 by 10 booth. Again, it was their debut onto the cybersecurity scene. And here's what made it work. First of all, they were visually distinct. From 10 feet away, you could see this glowing, deep purple box with this illuminated logo, Novi. Secondly, and most importantly, they were ultra clear about what the category was that they played in, the leader in AI pen testing. This was a decision that they made to not have anyone question what it was that they did. They were super clear. And so you didn't even have to walk up to talk to anyone to understand what it is, what they did. So you don't need lots of gimmicks, but when your brand is sharp and your message is obvious, you will do well. My last example here is torque. So if you were at RSA, you will not have missed this 55-foot inflatable skull here. So Torque is a security automation platform, and their mascot is Skelly, which is a kind of Grim Reaper character that represents the death of manual security work when Torque gets involved. And at RSA, they really leaned into this Skelly character in the form of this, this 55-foot inflatable skeleton. You couldn't miss it on the floor. There was no metaphor, no narrative, just a massive physical presence that made everyone stop and look. And they fully utilized Skelly. So they had skits on the floor, they had animations, they even had a tattoo booth where there were tons of people in line getting temporary tattoos, but also real tattoos. This made huge impression. They had the coolest swag, and they had thousands of new LinkedIn followers during the conference. There was a ton of buzz. So here I showed you 3 different booth concepts, total different strategies, all worked. Novi was stripped down and super clear. Drop Zone went all in on a concept, and Torque just put up a 55-foot skeleton in the room. Um, the point is that every single one of these companies was very clear on what their intention was and their marketing perception. And once you are clear with your marketing perception, this is going to inform the rest of your execution for the booth. So you have the booth, the swag and collateral, and your staff. And a few of the questions that I like to ask my teams are for the booth. If you were to remove your logo, is the booth still going to obviously be yours? Secondly, for your swag and collateral, does your sales rep have to actually explain what the relevance of this swag is before they pass out the swag? Or is it clear? Does it relate back to what your booth story is? And then finally, your staff. I want you to text three people who are going to be on the floor with you at the show and ask them what it is your company does. Their answers need to be matching. Make sure that your story is consistent with all members of your team. I want to end on something a little bit different. It's a demonstration. So what you're seeing here is a completely fictional company called Gloom Security. Everything you're looking at, the booth render, the full swag range, I made in one sitting. No designer, no agency, no budget. I used AI. So specifically what I did was I wrote a perception statement. Then I described a booth out loud in plain English, the way you describe it to any colleague. And then I let AI make me a rendering. My AI render was like a mirror. The sharper that I got with my marketing perception, the booth and my booth narrative, the better the renderings got. And here's what's even more powerful is that the AI does not replace your fabricator or your vendor. It collapses the gap between the idea in your head and something that you need to share with your team for them to react to. So, for example, your CEO can respond to a visual. Your agency can quote on something that looks real. So, here's your homework. I want you to write your perception statement and then get on ChatGPT, describe your booth, keep describing it until the rendering you get back looks like something you really like. All right, now go out there, have fun, build the most awesome booths, and see you at Black Hat.
All right. Thank you, Mino. That was fun and inspiring. And now I'm going to hand it over to Tim, who would like to pose a provocative question to all of us, which is, where should you be focusing most of your energy at Black Hat?
All right. Thanks, Netta. We'll give a few seconds for people to write their answers in the chat. The booth, a very common answer that we definitely get. Meetings. Okay. Interesting. People. All right. Scheduling time with clients. All really good answers here. And to be honest, the boring answer is it depends on your goals. But if your goal is to maximize ROI, nothing matters more than booking meetings both before the conference and after. And that's what we're going to talk about here. So I don't want to overstate any of this. Of course, all the stuff on top of the water is important, whether you're creating the perfect booth, event recaps, planning for next year. It's your brand. It should look good, and it's definitely worth the time and investment. But it's really what your prospects don't see, what's under the water that delivers the most ROI. Ultimately, you want to go into Black Hat with a full calendar of meetings already booked. So for those who might not be, or for those who might be doing outreach at Black Hat for the first time, is a very tactical overview of what this entails. So number one, building your list. There is no Black Hat attendee list that's distributed before the show. In fact, there's a bunch of scams out there that you'll probably get in your inbox saying that they have this list and it's for sale. It's not. The only accurate list you can get is from either the Black Hat website itself. So think the list of speakers and sponsors, the media list that they share, or people on LinkedIn saying that they're attending. Both aren't amazing, but a general rule of thumb is to basically reach out to anyone you're interested in talking to. Assume everyone is attending. It's a good hook anyways, and the worst thing they could say is that they aren't going to the conference. Number two, conducting outreach. So the best practice is to send both emails and LinkedIn messages, yes, to the same person. Especially in cyber, we find that email is increasingly getting harder to respond, but it's still effective for some. You can see here some of our favorite outreach tools. Dripify to us is sort of the gold standard because it can do both LinkedIn and email in the same sequence, but other alternatives include HubSpot, especially for email sequencing. This is because most startups already are using HubSpot already, or Outreach if you don't have a HubSpot license and you are looking for something a little bit more cost effective. It's important to note that manual sends are still the best method for outreach. This is because of personalization, deliverability, and other reasons, but we won't go into the weeds during this webinar. And lastly, scheduling and sending out your messages. So both email and LinkedIn have their best practices when it comes to how many messages you can send. Review them carefully. They're all online, but as a baseline from this webinar, you can say that for LinkedIn, you send about 100 messages a week. This is depending on your subscription tier, your profile background and history. And for Gmail, you can theoretically send as many as you want, but the best practice is to limit yourself to 25 cold emails per day. And another tip here, founder profiles consistently perform best compared to that of other titles. So if you can leverage other profiles, great. All right. Of course, doing the outreach here doesn't mean that your calendars will suddenly be packed with meetings. There's definitely best practices, which we mentioned before, that can improve your odds, but ultimately it's just as important to avoid common mistakes. So mistake number one, starting 2 weeks out. So calendars fill up early. By the time you reach out in 2 weeks, everyone is already booked or probably unresponsive. Instead, we recommend you start 6 weeks out from the conference. Mistake number two, not reaching out to everyone. So we see teams oftentimes only looking to book meetings with maybe their immediate universe, think your customers or existing pipeline. Sometimes customers focus on booking meetings with net new prospects only, and ultimately both approaches don't really cut it. It's the second time in the year after RSA where everyone in your ICP is concentrated in one city, and nothing beats face-to-face time, so make sure you're taking full advantage of the situation. Mistake number three, not leveraging partners and lead gen vendors. So you don't have to only rely on your in-house team to book meetings. Externally sourced meetings are more convenient than ever. There's concrete dates, extreme concentration of your ICP, and vendors and partners that are already planning to be there. So lean into your vendor and partner ecosystem, be communicative, set goals for them, and check in regularly. Mistake number four, only incentivizing your sales team. So everyone knows the saying, sales is coin operated, but other teams want to be the same. Open up your spiff to everyone at the company, whether it's something like whoever books the most meetings gets a dinner for two at a Michelin-starred restaurant, or maybe an upgraded suite for the conference. I should also note, incentivizing your team doesn't always mean prizes. Shame can sometimes be a stronger motivator, so consider both. You'll see in the next slide a couple examples. And lastly, mistake number five, not having a unified Black Hat calendar link, or in general, just making the process difficult to book a meeting. So convenience is key. Internally, you have multiple teams jockeying for meeting slots already. Now you include your outsourced meetings. It might take 3 days just to find a time to book one of these valuable meetings. So save yourself the time. Use one link to book all your meetings. You'll see here on this slide a couple examples that we've actually used for our clients when it comes to motivating our teams. So on the left-hand side, you see a spiff for whoever sets the most meetings wins a dinner for two. I will note that we do limit the amount that we issue for the spiff, and we also require a minimum meeting set target to apply. This actually applies for any spiff that you set. We highly recommend these guidelines. And the one on the right here is an example of shaming. We shared the team leaderboard version here, but we actually like to do one with names and faces, showing people who's leading the pack and those who might be lagging behind. So now that you're going to avoid all these mistakes, you're going to do outreach in the right way, what can you expect in terms of pre-book meetings for Black Hat? Before we jump into the numbers, I should caveat by saying this, that these numbers are based off of typical conference budgets and conversion rate calculations to get positive ROI from the conference, as well as what's realistic from 2026. So every company is different. Use these more as guidelines and guardrails and tailor them to your specific Black Hat strategy and presence. But that being said, in general, if you're a startup where you, the founders, are the sales team, you should aim for about 10 to 15 pre-booked meetings. If you're an early stage startup, say with maybe a sales leader, maybe one AE, set a target for 20 to 30 pre-booked meetings. And if you have a mature sales and customer success team, aim for 5 to 10 meetings per sales rep and meeting with all your customers that are attending the show. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about post-show. As marketers, you spent 3 months or more planning and executing for this conference, put in your leads into the CRM, and now it's on sales to execute. Well, I hate to break it to you, but that's not really true. So what else do you need to do as marketers? Number one, set expectations. So you scan hundreds or maybe even thousands of leads at your booth. Some might convert to new pipeline immediately. In reality, most won't. So treat booth scans as an ABM touch point. You need to continue nurturing and engaging these companies before they become a real opportunity, and that's okay. Both marketing and sales needs to follow up with that in mind. Number two here, it's a bit of a hot take. It's okay to double text, both in life, but also when it comes to your Black Hat follow-up. Personal outreach takes time, and like the graph you saw before, it's important to reach out immediately after the conference. Marketing can provide that air cover, so create your follow-up templates for your activities, send them out to every lead before everyone else does. And lastly, skip the Black Hat recap blog. It's a waste of time. The team just had hundreds of conversations with their ICP. Have a deep brief call, yes, to get feedback on the conference as a whole, but also to get feedback on what your ICP cares about and use it to influence your content strategy. Cool. Now handing it back off to Netta.
All right. Wow. Thank you, Tim. That was chock full of sound advice. Okay, before we open this up to questions, and I encourage you to keep asking either in the chat or via the Q&A. We got a couple of interesting questions during the presentation. I want to end with one message and a few additional resources for all of you. Black Hat is big, and a successful conference can be something that carries you through the end of 2026 and beyond. Unfortunately, it can also be a massive failure that's going to severely impact your year. Fortunately, you do not have to go at it alone. So hopefully the webinar today was helpful, useful. We're going to share this deck, the recording, and a few other resources about field marketing in general and Black Hat specifically as a follow-up with all of you today. However, webinar is really just skimming the surface of this topic, and it doesn't pertain to your individual situation. So at Blue Seedling, we also offer Black Hat one-on-one coaching sessions where we talk about your specific situation, goals, budget, and we help you build a plan that's tailored to your goals and resources. We also share with you all of our preferred Black Hat vendors, budget hacks, etc. So you come out of it with the best Black Hat plan you can have for your company. Second, if for some reason you don't have in-house field marketing support, or maybe you would like a boost preparing for Black Hat and during the show, we offer what we call field marketing as a service, and our field marketers can be with you before, during, and after the show. We have folks attending Black Hat in person this year. And if that's of any interest, happy to continue the conversation. And with that, I'm gonna open it up to Q&A. And we got a couple of interesting questions that came in during the presentation. And the first one is for, I guess, Minal and Erez. So any tips for keeping booth energy high on day 3 as it is on day 1? It's a good one. Minal, do you want to take this?
Sure, yeah. Well, I think, three things that come to mind. So, number one, with the staff that you have on the floor, make sure that you build shift rotations. Don't do it on the fly. Like have the scheduling ready so that everyone knows when to be on, and it's not like people guessing. Secondly, make sure that you schedule, even if it's just 15 minutes a day, some kind of end of the day ritual debrief so that you learn very quickly from your team what is working and what's not working. It'll give the team a sense of ownership to contribute their ideas on like what can make your presence even better. And you'll learn actually some very serious lessons from those debrief sessions. And then finally, the third thing is I think people don't think about this, but put your best people on the floor on the last day of the expo. People think that everyone is tired, but really, this is the time when decision makers are walking the floor, they've seen everything, and now they're like, okay, it's time to take some action and talk to some people seriously. So don't leave the tiredest energy for the last day. Like really invest at that time as well. Erez, anything to add?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I would also say striking the fear of God into the team, like letting them know that this is an actual work day and not a wait period before their flight. But yes, the shift rotation is very important. Make sure that people aren't too tired, so use people who have not done last night's like afternoon shift and just if everyone knows that this is an important day, they'll treat it that way. So preconceived notions should be um, removed from the conversation.
Awesome, thank you. Tim, this one is for you. So for getting pre-booked meetings, which channel actually works the best? Is it email, LinkedIn, calling people, or something else?
Yeah, it's a good question. Again, boring answer here. Everyone's a bit different, but if I was to generalize or see a trend, I would say tech and channel partners, lead gen vendors, they tend to perform really well, especially during event season. So these are people who are motivated to book meetings in general, and they tend to overperform during these months. But if you're talking about your own channels, if maybe you're an earlier stage company without a big vendor or partner ecosystem, LinkedIn is probably what's dominating cyber right now.
All right, thank you. The next one, can a first timer at Black Hat realistically chase all 3 goals, or should they just pick one goal? So I can take this one. Ideally, you have the luxury of only picking one, but realistically, your CEO is not going to let you, and you're going to have a version of all 3. I think in this case, ranking them is really useful, and making sure your budget allocation ties to the ranking, and using a lot of education and expectation setting and communication, which, as always, is the key to success. Okay, so another one. Ella's, I guess everyone, Ella's maybe for you. Any thoughts on how to make the most out of the new Tuesday afternoon day at Black Hat?
So I can start. We've been thinking about this recently, and our recommendation is to try to push the sales team to book meetings for that morning and afternoon, especially if there's a meeting suite right at Mandalay Bay. This way, you build up the team's energy for the show. Plus, you can encourage prospects to come visit you later which might not be an option if you meet them later in the week. Beyond that, these welcome sessions tend to be very busy, very noisy. So you might want to put out some of your best swag to create some sort of buzz for the rest of the week.
Awesome. Thank you. What's one thing companies could fix now before August 1st? I can start, but I'm sure you guys have additional takes as well. I always believe that the most important thing is people. So I would carefully select who's attending, and then I would just invest in educating them and motivating them so that they come to the show super pumped about the company and being there and having fun and selling. Because if your team's awesome, like Alice said, this is your biggest hack, and that's going to lead to the best ROI, even if everything else is just good and not great. So fix your team and everything else follows.
No, I can add about attitude because it's not just your team's or your sales team's attitude or your booth team's attitude, but it's also the attitude of the marketing and the field marketing team. And I would say 2 months pre-show is not too late to make changes, even logistical and operational. So if you feel that something has to be different, embrace that and just work to do that. There's time to still um, address any changes that you want to make.
Maybe to
Cool.
be a bit more tactical here, it piggybacks off of what you, Netta, and Eris said. Not every single sales rep needs to be at Black Hat. If they book a meeting at the show, then sure, they can come, and that is generally a good proxy for who's actually excited to be there. We'll make the most out of it, in my experience at least.
Very good point. All right, Minna, this is for you. How do you make sure creative activation actually turns into real conversations and not just entertainment? And maybe we can share a few of the creative activations that we've entertained.
Wow, this is a good question because there's a lot of entertainment on the expo, eh, the hall, and it's like uh, my main thing is question the relevance of your activation to your booth story. So, does it make sense in the context of what your booth story is? So, for example, Drop Zone AI, they were handing out like sliders. They had milkshakes, right? That very clearly ties back to their theme. And for Skelly, I mean, they had tattoos for Torque, right? Like, how badass is that? So these were activations that were like, can seem totally random if taken out of context, but in the context of what they were doing made sense. All right, so that's relevance. The other side of it, though, which I think is even more important, is converting your entertainment or your activation into conversations. So literally look at your staff on the floor and see, do you have that one person who's going to be stationed by the activations who can very well read who is there and then can take transition them from the activation into a conversation with a sales rep, or can you segue them to a demo, right? So you can't assume that people who are running your activations are automatically going to do that. You're going to actually have to train or assign to a staff member to actually do that. So that's what I would say tactically to turn the entertainment into true business.
Awesome. Tim, I'm getting a ton of emails every day for buying Black Hat lists. Should I buy them? And I can attest to this because everyone is asking me this question. Literally today, I got asked multiple times by other people outside the marketing team, which is always fun. Like, hey, marketing, just buy the list for us.
Yeah.
So what should we do?
No, definitely do not buy the lists. Now, some of these lists are curated from maybe last year's attendees, maybe their booth scans. I don't know. There's usually an aggregation of legitimate contact details, but no, it's not any better than a list that you can pull off of Zoom Info or your other sales intelligence vendors that you might already have on hand. So no, don't and report them, put them in spam. It's okay.
All right. So at Blackhead and in life, it's good to be ahead of time and under budget. So I want to give everyone a gift of 8 minutes of your time back. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to follow up with all of these resources, and I hope to see all of you in Vegas. Have an amazing show. Thank you. Bye.